I don't know who needs to hear this, but stop overthinking and start building. Not when your branding is done, not when you've finished your course that you bought 3 months ago and you still haven't opened. Just stop overthinking and start building now. So I spent the first half of 2025 overthinking this. I had a million browser tabs open all the time, the saved posts. I was watching endless YouTube videos about building businesses instead of actually building one. I was consuming so much content about taking action, but I wasn't taking any action. And I told myself that it was just preparation, that I had to do it, but it wasn't. It was overthinking dressed up as research, essentially. So let me break this down as someone who started this whole journey from absolute zero. No business background, no marketing knowledge, no idea what a business model even was. But the thing that I know for certain now is that nobody cares as much as you think that they do. And even if they do, that really shouldn't be the thing that stops you. So before we get into it, I have a free 7-day email course that shows you how to start building from zero and a private community for women who want more than their 9 to 5 with a 7-day free trial on at the moment. So all the links are in the description below. So building this has genuinely changed me. And I want to say this as honestly as I can. I chose my career, optometry, for the stability, not because it was my calling. And for years, I told myself that that's just how adult life worked. You get a good job, you stay in it, and, you're grateful for it. But when I decided to start learning business from zero, the research, the courses, the ideas that I was slowly starting to turn into something, I was literally terrified about people finding out. Coming from my background, I knew that everyone's reaction would be just, you have a stable career. Why are you wasting your time on this? So I literally just got on with it. I said nothing. I found a separate office space specifically so I could focus on this work without being watched or questioned constantly or distracted even. Honestly, that decision, it literally changed everything for me. Because I stopped performing for stability for other people and started building something real of my own. So here's what I've learned since then. The people who judge you for wanting more are almost always the ones who wish that they had the courage to want more themselves. And at some point in this journey, you feel this pull back to the idea over and over. But you're scared. You're scared that people who know you will see it. You're scared that you'll put something real out there into the world and it won't land. You're scared that stepping out of the role everyone expects you to fill will cost you something that you're not willing to lose. And the fear that if you step out of line, you'll want something beyond what society, your culture, your colleagues expect of you, and that you'll be judged and seen differently for that. When you're a professional woman from a traditional background, that fear can be very loud. It's your colleagues, your friends, your family, the culture that you were raised in. It has very clear ideas about what a good life looks like and what, going off the rails looks like. And that fear is completely normal. There's nothing wrong with you for feeling it. But this is the thing that I learned, that your brain will literally generate a million different reasons for you not to do the thing that actually matters to you on demand every time you get close to starting. And that's not a sign to stop. That's just a sign that you're close to something real. Think about the woman that you found online that's building something that you admire. You subscribe to her channel. She didn't start with the perfect brand. She didn't have the polished website and the professional thumbnails all on day one. She didn't wait until everything was in order before she took action. She literally just showed up. She started posting, sharing, building before she was ready. If she hadn't, you wouldn't have found her. She wouldn't have had the impact on you that she does. That content that makes you think, I want to do something like this too. I'm capable of this too, only exists because she decided to take action before she felt ready. So the showing up is the whole thing, and everything else just happens after. So here are 4 problems that you might be having. So the first problem is that I need everything in place before I can start. This is the most common thing that I see, keeping a lot of professional women stuck where they are. And I know it because I've lived it for so long myself. You tell yourself things like, I need to sort my branding out first. I need my whole course to be built before I can launch it. You tell yourself, I need a better website, a bigger following. I need to feel more ready. I spent months watching YouTube videos endlessly about starting a business before I actually did anything about it. I bought so many courses, I filled up so many notebooks, I made plans that I never looked at again, and nothing shipped. And that is overthinking. It's not preparing yourself for anything. Preparation means taking action, taking a step forward. Overthinking means taking notes about taking a step, but not actually doing anything about it. So here's why this is so specific to us. We're trained professionals. We sat difficult exams. We spent years earning qualifications and postgrads, and our entire professional identity is built on being competent, on getting it right. So when we decide to approach building something new, our brain does exactly what it was trained to do. Wait until you're ready before you begin. But that's not how this works. In my community, I talk about the minimum viable product. The concept is simple, really. Done is better than perfect. Not because quality doesn't matter, but because you can't improve something that doesn't exist yet. And my first piece of content, it felt so awkward. My first offer, it didn't land the way that I wanted it to. My first email was barely opened. But that's not failure. That was the start of my journey. But if you look back today in 6 months' time and you feel totally fine about it, that means that you haven't grown. And, that's the real problem. So just an example here, I had a whole module outlined and I spent weeks planning it. And I thought that it was clear, logical, and done. But then I showed it to my mentor and they said that, it doesn't make sense. Like, why are you talking about this? Although I felt that I'd wasted time, that taught me more about how to communicate clearly than any course that I'd ever watched about creating a course. So what I'm trying to get at is stop planning and just start building, because you learn from your mistakes after you've taken action on them. So, just one post, one email, done will always teach you more than overthinking ever will. The second problem is that you thinking to yourself, who am I to do this? Something that generally helped me move faster is thinking that it's okay to model the people you look up to. Essentially, this is called validation. You're not copying, you're just using an idea that has already been proven to work and is validated and just making it yours, putting your own twist on it. Just because you make something look nice and you create something that you like and it looks amazing to you, it doesn't mean that it's going to work. If you're doing things this way, you haven't done the research of what's working right now and what's not, then you're just assuming. You're making assumptions. And when you make assumptions, you're taking big risks in your business. When I'm creating content, I look at the structure of videos that are working, the way that they open, the way that they build to a point, their emotional arc. And then I reframe it in my own voice, my own experience, my own frameworks. And I'm learning more from actually making this content than I have from any other video I've watched about how to make content. Because, you learn by doing and not by consuming. Here, there's something important about the judgment side of this. Because at some point, if it hasn't already, somebody in your world is probably going to make you feel like, who are you? Who do you think you are? Maybe it's a comment, maybe it's a colleague who finds out about your business or what you're building and gives you kind of that weird look, like, who is she to do this? Maybe it's just a voice in your own head telling yourself that, you're just an optometrist. What do you know about business? And I've felt like this so much. And sometimes I still feel like this. I let it stop me and I kept asking myself, who am I to teach this? I have no business degree. I have no marketing background. I have no proof. Here's what I've come to understand. You literally just have to be a few steps ahead of someone who's not made it to the level to where you are yet. You don't need to be a guru or have made $1 million. Every person who's done the thing that you're attempting to do, like building an audience, building an offer, putting themselves out there, they know what it costs, the courage that it takes to start. And the people who question you are almost always the ones who haven't started something themselves and they're looking for a reason to explain why they haven't. Future you 2.0, she doesn't wait for permission. She stops overthinking and actually starts building. And the third problem is thinking all the time, what will my colleagues think? What will my friends think and family think? This one is for us specifically. The woman with titles, with qualifications, with reputations built over the years. If you're thinking all the time, what happens if my family find this? What will my colleagues think? For me, this was really real. I'm from a background where the path in life was clear. You get a good job, you keep it, and you're grateful for it, and you graft for the rest of your life until you retire. I've seen businesses in my family fail when I was younger, and it was hard. And I built this paradigm, this belief system very early on, and I decided that business was never something that I could do. And, keeping this business that I started quiet was probably one of the best decisions that I made. Because the moment that you tell everyone, you literally invite everyone's opinions to judgment into your life. And you really don't need that right now. And I realized that judgment is just words, so why are you letting it and allowing it to impact yourself so much and turn your life literally upside down just because of one person's opinion? It really shouldn't disrupt you going after your dreams and goals. And if you're worried about other people finding out, you have two options here. Option one is you don't tell them yet. You wait until you've built enough momentum that it feels stable. And, that's not hiding. It's just protecting your focus. And the second option is just deciding simply that their opinion just doesn't matter anymore. You're not the employee now that's waiting for permission. You're the founder deciding to move forward. And problem 4, thinking that everyone else is so far ahead. In December 2024, when I first got serious about mindset work for the first time in my life, the thing that hit me the hardest, it wasn't a lesson or a framework. It was just simply watching people younger than me, with fewer qualifications, with less professional experience, making so much more money online through businesses than I had ever made in my whole life as an optometrist. And my first reaction wasn't motivation. It was that I should have started sooner, and I'm already so behind. What's even the point of me trying? Does that sound familiar to you? So here's what I reframed in my mind. I spent 10 years becoming genuinely qualified at something that you might find hard. I have the skills, the credibility, I have a depth of professional experience. And none of that has to be wasted. It was actually my foundation when I thought about it. The thing here is that you can't compare your day 1 to someone else's year 5. Everyone is on their own path. The only version of yourself you are allowed to compare yourself to is the version from just 3 months ago. Think about, has she moved forward even slightly? And if the answer is yes, then you're winning. Now, the second thing, because here's something nobody really talks about. The first post hurdle, but when you get over it, what's harder is week 10, when the new thing that you started starts to wear off, when it begins to feel like work, when the algorithm hasn't rewarded you yet, but the motivation is still nowhere to be found. And this is a point where most people stop. Not because they're not capable, but because they were running on excitement instead of a system. Because when the excitement fades, overthinking just rushes in to fill the gap. The 10% of people who actually build something, they don't have more talent than the 90% who stop. They simply just build a system to keep moving forward, So you measure your progress against your own, not someone else's. starting line. So stop comparing and literally just start building. Start building with a system. Record what works and what doesn't. So here's what keeps me going. Like I said earlier, I chose my career for stability, not for passion. And for years, I told myself that that was fine, that wanting more was me kind of being ungrateful. And that staying in a comfortable loop was just what responsible adults did and what society expected of us. And staying in that loop now, that would have cost me my mental health. And I truly know that now. I'm building what I'm building, even in the messy, uncertain times. It's given me the purpose that I didn't even know I was missing, and a drive to push me towards reaching my goals. But what it has cost me is time that I could have spent with my family, with my friends. I've been working weekends, every bit of free time that I have, my laptop's open, I'm working. But the thing here is that I get to build something that's truly mine, that no employer can restructure, that no one can take away from you. And the thing is, this time that you spend focusing on your purpose and building something of your own, it'll pay off in the next couple of years. And, if you're watching this thinking that it's too late, there are women in their 30s, 40s, 50s, starting from zero right now. Age is not the variable, just simply starting is. And most women who say that they want to build something online but never do, it's not because they're not smart enough, not because they don't have something valuable to share. Everyone does. But because of the fear of looking foolish, the fear of judgment, the fear of not being ready, that ends up being louder than the actual desire and the goal. 5 years ago, I would never have believed I was capable of what I'm doing now, or even think about making this video. Basically, what I'm trying to say is that you can't have any of this if you're too scared to even start. So if you made it this far in this video, give it a like and subscribe, and let me know your thoughts and comments below. And if it resonated, here's where to go next. So I have a free 7-day email course that maps out how to start from absolute zero while you're still in your 9 to 5. And secondly, if you want to take this more seriously, join my private community with access to courses and much, much more. And currently I have a free 7-day trial, so be sure to hop on. And lastly, if you're ready to build this and you want hands-on support, comment build and I can send you the details for my done for you service. All the links are in the description below, so be sure to check them out. Again, thank you for making it to the end if you have. Know that you can do anything that you set your mind to, and I'll see you in the next one.